Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. It is now week 2 in the NFL, so we're back with my weekly NFL predictions. If you enjoy the content, make sure you do like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. With that being said, let's get to my week 2 NFL predictions. Alright, so just a heads up, I am a little bit under the weather, so we're gonna power through, okay? So let's give it our best shot. Alright, so as always, we do start with the previous week recap. So the Chiefs beat the Ravens. Let me preface this by saying I went out on a lot of limbs last week, especially at the Panthers winning, at the Cardinals winning. It was just could have gone either way in a lot of these games, except for the Panthers. Obviously, I thought way too highly of them. But yeah, let's get back into it. So Chiefs beat the Ravens 27-20. Eagles beat the Packers 34-29. Steelers beat the Falcons 18-10. The Falcons just kind of shit the bed there. Bills beat the Cardinals 34-28. Bears beat the Titans 24-17. Patriots beat the Bengals 16-10. The Bengals did not show up. I should have kind of predicted that because they didn't show up in week 1 last year either. But it is what it is. The Texans beat the Colts 29-27. Dolphins beat the Jaguars 20-17. Saints beat the Panthers 47-10. I just can't believe I predicted the Panthers to win. I thought, they would be better. Anyway, Vikings beat the Giants. Daniel Jones, man, I don't know. Chargers beat the Raiders 22-10. Seahawks beat the Broncos 26-20. My Seahawks. The Cowboys beat the Browns 33-17. Buccaneers beat the Commanders 37-20. Lions beat the Rams in overtime 26-20, and the 49ers beat the Jets 32-19. So overall, 9-7. We're still net positive, and yeah, after week 1 we are 9-7 overall record. So we're positive, and we're gonna try to continue that going forward. Over to my weekly NFL ranking. So these are my top 5 teams. It's always hard to predict the top 5 after week 1 and 2, just because I feel like a lot of the teams will change by the end of the week or end of the year, like weeks 17 and 18. But as of right now, I do have the Buffalo Bills at the number 5 spot. I think it's unsustainable in my opinion, but Josh Allen is Superman, and I think he carries this team very efficiently against poorer teams, but I just don't think he can continue this when we're going against the Chiefs, against the Bengals, against just better teams. And I know the Bengals looked very poor in week 1, but I still think very highly of them. Number 4, I do have the Texans. Their defense leaves a little bit to be desired for me, but I think their offense has a lot of weapons for CJ, and I think CJ is very good, and I think they can continue this for the entire year. As for the number 3 spot, I do have the Detroit Lions. Lions, they're impressive, but they have a couple of questions. I need them to fix some of those offensive miscues. I need them to pass the ball just as much as they run the ball. And I think their run game is very good, especially with the David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. If they can lean on both of them, I think this team can be phenomenal. Coming in at number 2, I do have the San Francisco 49ers. I do think they are still the team to beat out of the NFC, but injuries are already starting to happen to them, and I just don't think the Jets. I think the Jets were a little bit more bark than bite, so we'll see how the Niners continue to fare, but yeah, we'll see. And number 1 is the Chiefs. I'm not going to talk too much about the Chiefs. They're the Chiefs, 2-time defending Super Bowl champions. They're just as good as they were last year, even though I think they were poor last year. I think they played poorly in their first game, which they still won. They still won 27-20 against the Ravens. I'm getting a text. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know how you stop this team, but yeah, I have the Chiefs at number 1. All right, now starting off at Thursday Night Football, we do have the Buffalo Bills at the Miami Dolphins. So for the Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen was successfully Superman last week. He was kind of doing it all. I don't think it's very sustainable. Their run game looks better than I thought, just because I didn't expect Josh Allen to be running as much as he is. But like I said, it's just it's unsustainable. I think eventually the wear and tear will catch up with his body, and I just don't think he can continue to do this against the better teams. I think their defense still worries me. Giving up 28 points to the Cardinals last week, it just seems there's room for improvement for sure on this defense. As for the Dolphins, they started way too slow. You have so many burners on this team: Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Devon Achane. They need to rely on their playmakers a lot more. Jet sweeps, just getting the ball in the hands of their playmakers would be amazing. And like I said here, Devon Achane, he has to be fed. He was fed efficiently last week, and I think they need to continue doing that going forward. Even if the run game is not working, continue to feed Achane. I think he has bursts of speed, and I think he can carry this team. So Tua doesn't have to carry the lion's share of the load, because I think Tua needs to get more confident. His passing game, there's just certain throws where I'm like, he's not throwing as if he thinks he can make the play, and it leaves a little bit to be desired. So I do have the Dolphins winning this game. I got the Dolphins 28, Bills 27. This one can definitely go either way, but as of right now, I'm leaning towards the Dolphins in this one. And starting off the early window games on Sunday, we have a ton of early window games. So let's get to it. We have the New Orleans Saints at the Dallas Cowboys. So for the Saints, I think they had a tremendous first game. That was such a confidence booster, but I'm not sure how realistic they can be about playing that well every single game for the whole year. I think the Panthers might have just been that awful. So this will be a good test for them. I think their defense, if they can play like they did last week for the whole year, I think this team can definitely make a playoff push. I think Derek Carr, he needs to not do too much. He's efficient. He's a game manager in my opinion, but he just needs to not try to do too much. And I think that's kind of par for the course for a lot of these quarterbacks they always just try to do too much. As for the Cowboys, Dak is a paid man, so we do not have to worry about his contract going forward. So he can play without having to worry about anything. Their defense was as stout as I expected. Their defensive line is very good. They got Diggs back in their secondary. They have Deron Bland on the opposite side, and I think their defense is very good, as good as I thought they would be. I just don't think their offense could get much going. Dak couldn't get a lot going in the pass game, and Zeke Elliott can only get you so much in the run game. I just don't see this team being able to score offensively efficiently against better opponents. That being said, I do have the Cowboys winning this game. This is a good test for both of these teams to see who is more realistic, but I do have the Cowboys winning. Cowboys 27, Saints 20. Already in our next game is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Detroit Lions. So for the Buccaneers, I think Baker might be the guy, especially for what we're seeing in Cleveland. Cleveland might have some huge regrets. I think they need to shore up the run defense. I think they still have a lot of great players on their defensive line, and in their linebacker core is a little bit younger. But I think this team can still contend for their division championship, in my opinion. I think it's a 3-team race. Obviously, I don't think the Panthers are doing much. So I'm very excited to watch this Buccaneer team. I think they need help from the run game quite extensively, just because I don't feel like Baker can do what he did last week every single week, but he'll sure as hell try. I like Baker a lot, so I think this team is very fun to watch. As for the Lions, they need to feed that two-headed backfield. Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, they are both very efficient. Jahmyr is more a speed back, while David Montgomery is a power back, except last week he looked like a mix of both. They just need to feed both of those guys. So Goff does not have to be Superman. So I think Goff is efficient. I think he can game manage with the best of them, as long as he doesn't have to do too much. I think their defense needs to play like they did last week, every week. Taking the Rams to overtime like they did, I think it was very impressive from this Lions team. That being said, I do have the Lions winning this one. I got the Lions 30, Buccaneers 24. This one might be a little bit more competitive than I have it, but as of right now, I do have the Lions winning this one. Moving on to the Indianapolis Colts at the Green Bay Packers. So for the Colts, Anthony Richardson, he just needs to be more consistent throwing the ball. I think for the volume of throws that he is throwing, he just needs to capitalize on making more completions than he was. I think somebody else needs to help him out in the run game. Like I said about Josh Allen, it's unsustainable for you to have to rely on your quarterback to do all of the passing and all of the running as well. So somebody needs to help this man. And I think their defense has room for improvement. So hopefully that can that can happen more quickly than not. As for the Packers, no love for several weeks, which is very unfortunate. I like watching Jordan Love, so it sucks for the sport, sucks for him. I wish him a speedy recovery. I think their run game needs to be more effective. I know they don't have AJ Dillon, but I don't know. I think their run game should still be efficient, but without Jordan Love, I don't know how efficient it will be. I think they have Malik Willis on their bench right now, so we'll see what they can do for this Packer team. I think their secondary needs to continue to ball hawk. They got some picks last week, and they need to just continue to do so. I was very impressed with their defense last week, regardless of the outcome. I think it was a tough game for sure. And I do have the Colts winning this one. It might be a little bit of an upset pick. I just don't know what the Packers will be without Jordan Love. So I do have the Colts winning 24, Packers 20. Going into the next game, we do have the New York Jets at the Tennessee Titans. So for the Jets, the offense is way too hot and cold. I think they kind of run off of vibes, if that makes sense. If everybody's flying to the ball, everybody's pumped up, then they're amazing. But as soon as one or two bad things happen, the team goes ice cold, and they almost never come back. I think the run game needs to be established. Breece Hall he's efficient for sure. So I'm just not sure why this team struggles offensively and even defensively. They have way too many good players on this roster for them to play poorly. I think their defense is in the exact same boat. You have way too many people, way too many good players on your roster. You should not be playing this poorly. So it might be the offensive and defensive play calling. So they need to figure it out. As for the Titans, Levis is doing way too much. He is trying to be Superman, and he is super unsuccessful. Just that clip of him just surrender cobring on his knees as he threw that pick six to the Bears. It was just, you don't need to do too much. Just run the damn ball. Give it to Tony Pollard. Feed him as much as you need to, and do it. Just make it happen. I think their defense played very well last week. They gave up 0 offensive touchdowns, which is very impressive. So they just need to stop screwing themselves. I do have the Jets winning this one. Jets 20, Titans 17. This one, I'm kind of leaning as if it could go either way. So right now I got the Jets. Our next game is the San Francisco 49ers at the Minnesota Vikings. So for the 49ers, apart from some crazy throws, I thought Brock played pretty well. He's definitely an efficient game manager in my opinion. But like I said, there were a few throws where I was just like, how does the secondary not pick it off? And B, who the hell are you throwing to, Brock? But I'll give him his credit. He played very well last week. I think as soon as they can get Christian McCaffrey back, the team is almost unstoppable. So when is Christian McCaffrey coming back? He's on my fantasy team. I drafted him with the first overall pick, and he didn't play last week, and I got absolutely hosed by like 60 points against a guy in my group. Like, what are we doing? 49ers, help me out, please, God. And I think Brandon Ayuk, he just needs to get warm. He looked like he missed all of training camp, and that's exactly what happened. So he needs to get it back on track. As for the Vikings, that was a great win for them last week. I think Darnold, he just needs to be sufficient at game managing. I think their defense was efficient last week, but it was against Danny Dimes. So it is what it is. I think Aaron Jones, he needs to play like that often. He played extremely efficiently last week, and I think that needs to continue for this team to have success. As I say that, the 49ers are my prediction to win this game. I got the 49ers 31, Vikings 20. I just don't expect the Vikings to be able to keep up with the 49ers offense. And going over to New England, we have my Seattle Seahawks at the New England Patriots. So for my Seahawks, I think their defense needs to play like that every single week. We made a lot of mistakes, but Denver did not capitalize on any of them. we're still very young, especially defensively, but so they need to fix it. They need to fix those mistakes, but also be as efficient as last week. That is exactly what I was hoping I would see, and that's what I saw in the preseason. So it was awesome to see that defense play that way. I think the offensive line needs to improve. Gino's not the guy that can handle that much pressure. He's very impulsive. He'll just start hucking the ball. I think it was the second or third play where he threw the pick. As soon as they hit his leg, he just hucks that shit and it gets picked immediately. So he just needs to tone it back a little bit when things aren't going his way. Just throw the ball away, and that's it. So offensive line, please help him. And I think DK, he needs to stop at the penalties. DK is such a peculiar person. I think he is, when he's hot, he's on fire, and when he's not, he kind of plays like a child. But not, and I'm not trying to talk shit, he needs to clean up the penalties. So, as for the Patriots, Jacoby is the perfect game manager for this team. I was a little hesitant when they said they weren't going to start Drake May, but as of right now, run with Jacoby until, God forbid, knocking on wood, he gets injured. I keep it with Jacoby. I think their run game needs to be leaned on heavily. Jacoby won't carry you for every single game, especially not against more quality opponents. So they need to figure that part of their offense out. I think their defense was stout, but can it continue? I think Christian Gonzalez is amazing, and I love watching their defense at times with him. But can they be consistent? We will find out this week. I do have my Seahawks winning this game. I got the Seahawks 27, Patriots 24. This one could for sure go either way. Just depends on which version of the Patriots offense shows up. Our next game is the New York Giants at the Washington Commanders. So for the Giants, it's time to move on from Daniel Jones. I know they asked the head coach, Daboll, they asked him if they were going to think about moving on from Daniel Jones, and he said no. And I know that's probably to try and keep morale high in the locker room, but it's time. You've given him so much opportunity. It's time to move on. I think the run game is a non-factor, and it doesn't help when you're going down in every single game, and then Daniel Jones has to help try to claw you out of there. It's inefficient, and I don't think it's gonna continue until they get a more quality quarterback. I think their defense is too talented to be this poor, especially with players who fly to the football, like Thibodeau. He's the only one I can think about off the top of my head at the moment. But this defense is just too talented to be this poor. So coaching needs to improve, in my opinion. As for the Commanders, I think Jaden Daniels, if they can keep him healthy and upright, I think this team could be efficient. He needs to slide more, and he needs to get the hell out of bounds. But I think this team can definitely contend for one of those wild card spots. I think if Eckler and Robinson, if they can help in the run game a little bit more, this team will be excellent, in my opinion. I think their defense, they just need to show up. I don't think they really showed up last week against Tampa, but if they can show up, they have some veterans on this defense, and especially with Dan Quinn coaching this defense, I expect to see a little bit more, and I expect to see it this week. I do have the Commanders winning this game. Commanders 27, Giants 17. I just don't expect the Giants to contend for many wins this year. Our next game is the LA Chargers at the Carolina Panthers. So I went out on a limb for these Panthers, and they just continue to screw me, dude. I for some reason thought that they'd be a little bit better than they were last year. No, they're just as bad, if not somehow worse. Let's talk about the Chargers. So Herbert, I don't think he's doing too much, and that might be the recipe for success, but I think he still has the ability to be an elite quarterback in this league, but I'm not seeing it anymore. So we'll see what Jim Harbaugh can get out of Justin Herbert. If they keep on leaning on Dobbs, I think this team will have some success, might even sneak into the playoffs. I know Jim Harbaugh loves to run the ball, and I think J.K. Dobbins does that very well for them, as long as he can stay healthy. So continue to do so, and I think their defense looks very impressive. It's like Jim Harbaugh did not miss a beat since returning to the NFL. So yeah, I am pleasantly surprised by the Chargers so far. And for the Panthers, there is no light at the end of the tunnel. In my opinion, I think you got to fire the coach, the head coach. I think you need to restart. Maybe, and I hate to say this just because it is your week one and I'm trying not to overreact, but it might be time to get rid of Bryce. Not because I don't think Bryce can be good. I just don't think the Panthers will be good in the near future. And when I say near future, I mean next 2-3 years, in my opinion. I just don't see it. There's no run game at all. Bryce is running for his life. The offensive line can't block for him. I have no hope for this Panther team. Of course, I got the Chargers winning this one. Chargers 28, Panthers 17. I'll be shocked if the Panthers score 17 points. Moving over to our next game is the Cleveland Browns at the Jacksonville Jaguars. So for the Browns, I think the Deshaun Watson experiment is over. I think he has proven time and time again since returning from his suspension that he is just not a starting quarterback in this league anymore. He just can't play well. He can't game manage. He can't do anything. It's very apparent, and it's honestly kind of annoying. And I think with no Nick Chubb, there is no run game for this team. So if you can't pass the ball, you can't run the ball. What are you expected to do? How are you expected to be successful offensively? I think their defense was very quiet after the first quarter. After the first quarter, they were just lifeless. When the offense isn't doing anything, the defense is going to follow suit. So, yeah, I'm very down on the Browns right now. As for the Jaguars, I think their offense is way too hot and cold. They were very hot in the first half, and in the second half, they were trash. So they need to figure it out. They need to figure out their offensive play calling. I don't know. I'm kind of down on the Jaguars as well, but we'll see. We'll see what they got left. I think Trevor Lawrence, he throws the ball in a lot. He needs to be a lot more accurate, in my opinion. There's too many times where the ball is just thrown right to the defender, or it's just overthrown on a lot of his wide receivers. And I know a lot of quarterbacks have that issue, but for Trevor Lawrence, I think if he can fix that, I think this team could be very successful, in my opinion. I think their defense needs to just pick up the pace. There are certain times where they're not running to the ball, or there are certain times where a offensive player is just kind of wide open, and I'm just not seeing the spark this defense needs. That being said, of course, I got the Jaguars winning this game. I got the Jaguars 27, Browns 21. Browns are awful, just awful. And moving over to our next game, it is the Las Vegas Raiders at the Baltimore Ravens. So for the Raiders, they have no run game whatsoever to speak of, and I'm not sure what the solution is for this team. I think their defense is getting bullied both on the field and online. It's just not a recipe for success for this team. And I think I know a couple of Raider fans, and they were a little optimistic about this season. Like, maybe we're not going to be as bad as people thought. Unfortunately, they might be as bad as we thought, and I really hate to say that, but and I think Gardner Minshew, he needs to tap into his magic. I know he's got it. He's got that mustache, that glorious mustache. So he needs to tap into whatever weird voodoo shit that Ryan Fitzpatrick got into, and he needs to carry this team. So, as for the Ravens, I think Lamar running can only take you so far. I think he can be successful, but I don't think he can run that way for the entire season. I think if he runs this way, he's going to have an injury. It's just very apparent in the way that he runs. And I also don't like the way that he runs with the ball just gripped in his hand. He's just like flinging it around. It's just secure the ball. Just tuck it, protect it. Anyway, I think their defense needs to figure it out. I know they lost Coach Mike Macdonald to my beautiful Seahawks, but they need to figure out what they want to be defensively. And I'm just not sure they have that identity right now, so they need to figure it out. I think they need to pass vertically more. There's so many times where Lamar's taking the check down. They're running a bubble screen or any screen pass at all. Why is this your only way of getting your players the ball? If you're going to do passes or plays like that, run a jet sweep. Run any sweep so you can get your fastest players the ball. Stop running the play where you are just literally throwing the ball horizontally to the sideline, and the defenders read it every single time. And granted, I think the Chiefs' defense is better than most, but still, I just don't think that's sustainable. Get vertical, run some fucking other routes. Jesus. I still have the Ravens winning this game. I got the Ravens. Sorry, I'm a little tilted now. I got the Ravens 28, Raiders 20. Yeah, I don't think there's any way in hell the Raiders win this game. Next, we have the LA Rams at the Arizona Cardinals, kicking off our late window of games. We got 3 this week. So for the Rams, they lost Puka for at least the next 4 weeks. Well, we'll see if he's out longer than that. I think their run game is kind of a non-factor. Kyren Williams, I'm just not seeing it. Maybe it's time for Blake Corum. I drafted him in fantasy, and he got probably like negative touches because I cut him and I had to sign freaking Jordan Mason. Anyway, we're going off tangent here. I think their defense needs work after Donald retired. They got pressure in the first half, but in the second half it was very, very non-factory, and that's kind of my keyword for this on my picks this week. They're just not doing enough. It's kind of a non-factor. They're not being efficient enough in order to get offenses off the field. So I think their defense needs just a little bit of an improvement after Aaron Donald has retired now. For the Cardinals, I think their offense needs to do more in the pass game. I think Kyler threw for, I think it was 150-ish yards. That's not sustainable for this team. And Kyler running by himself, it can only take you so far, and that is for all mobile quarterbacks. It only takes you so far, because if your quarterback is running and passing, A, he'll be exhausted, and B, he will probably get injured. It's just a matter of time. So, and Kyler, I don't think he hasn't had a healthy full season in who knows how long. I think it was maybe his rookie year, the year after that. So they need to figure it out. I think their special teams need to continue to stay hungry. DJ Dallas, he has left Seattle, and now he's with this team, and he's one of their punt returners. Great. He is a very ferocious player, and the way he's playing is very good for this team. So they need to continue that play. I have the Rams winning this one. This one, in my opinion, is kind of a test for the Rams to see if they can be sustainable this season, but I got the Rams winning this game 28, Cardinals 24. Our next game is the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Denver Broncos. So for the Steelers, Fields is set to start in week 2. Russell Wilson is still out. Why is he dressed on the sideline even though he's out? I don't know. I really don't know. Najee, I think Najee was good, but he can be better. It's like that meme. It could be good. It's good. Could be better. Anyway, so I need this team to rely on Najee a bit more, and I need him to live up to what this team needs him to be. Because if you can get the ball to Najee, have Fields run as well, I think this team can be pretty good. And I know I'm talking certain quarterbacks shouldn't run. I think Justin Fields can't throw the ball effectively enough to not warrant him running the ball more, in my opinion. I think they need to pass the ball around. 85 of their 156 yards was to George Pickens. If you take George Pickens away, this team crumbles in the pass game. They need to pass the ball around, figure it out. The Broncos, Bo should not have to carry you. He shouldn't have to, but I think he should not have to, but I think he has to, because this team is awful. I think their run game sucks, and I'm not sure if that's just because the Seahawks run defense was good, but they had no run game to speak of. Bo was the only factor in the run game, and that's how they got their only touchdown against the Seahawks. But I think their defensive line is good, and that's kind of it. I'm kind of down on the rest of this team. I just don't think they will be able to do too much. I do have the Steelers winning this game. I got the Steelers 26, Broncos 17. I got the Steelers at 26 because they always get the weirdest freaking scores, man. They're just a weird-ass team. Moving over to our last late window game, we have the Cincinnati Bengals at the Kansas City Chiefs. So for the Bengals, they missed Joe Mixon a whole lot. I didn't think he was that big of a factor for this offense, but Joe Mixon is very good. And him in Houston kind of showed that. They need a run game, so they need to figure it out. They need to also figure out their offensive play calling. There are certain times where they're just not doing enough in the play calling, and it's kind of just predictable. And it's get the ball to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and kind of just screw everybody else. It just isn't working. I think their offensive line needs to improve. They're just not protecting Joe enough, and I'm I'm hoping. I'm still fingers crossed. This is my Super Bowl pick, so I'm still high on the Bengals, but they need to figure it out offensively. As for the Chiefs, they got a sloppy win last week. They played, in my opinion, very poorly, and they were still good enough to beat what some people think is the second best team in the AFC, in the Ravens. So I think if they can shore up a lot of those sloppy mistakes, I think this team can go back to the AFC Championship game, no question in my mind. I think if they lean on Pacheco more, it will be even more efficient for this team. I know it's hard to say lean on the run game when you have Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback, but I think if they do that, this team will be phenomenal offensively. I think getting everybody involved offensively is also a great way to do it. With Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, I think this team can be very good, especially getting Pacheco involved. I just don't see this team being bad. It's kind of shit. I hate it. I do have the Chiefs winning this game. Chiefs 27, Bengals 20. I do expect the Bengals to go down 0-2 and still make it all the way to the AFC Championship game at the very least. Our Sunday night game is the Chicago Bears at the Houston Texans. So for the Bears, their offense was horrible last week. Caleb did not throw for over 100 yards last week, and everybody was, praising him as the next freaking Peyton Manning, Joe Montana-esque echelon player. I didn't see it in college. I didn't see it week 1. So, I don't know. I think Caleb, he needs to throw the ball away a lot more. And I know he's a rookie, so he'll learn this. But he cannot be taking those monster sacks, especially because he's trying to do too much. And I get it. It was his first NFL game officially. He needs to learn to throw the ball away. Learn to live for another play. That's my opinion on that. The defense bailed him out last week. They got 2 pick sixes. Do you know how incomprehensibly rare that is to get 2 pick sixes? Almost as rare as getting 2 safeties in a game, but the Seahawks have made that happen anyway. So yeah, their defense, it looks good, and I'm kind of impressed with their defense, but offensively they need to figure it out. As for the Texans, I think CJ is too loosey-goosey with the ball, and that is kind of just the perfect way to sum it up. There were 4 or 5 plays where he threw the ball to the other team, and a couple of them they picked, but they got overturned because of a penalty. So, CJ, take care of the football a little bit more. You're on my fantasy team. Please, for the love of God, don't screw me. Joe Mixon, I should have drafted Joe Mixon. He needs to be leaned on a lot. He is very good. He's also I think the term is a bell cow back. He needs to get between 20 and 25 carries a game in order to be as efficient as he is. So they need to work on that. And I think they have so many weapons on this offense, especially with Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell. I'm blanking on a couple of their other players, but they have so many weapons for CJ to use on this team. I'm very excited to watch the Texans this year. Of course, I have the Texans winning this game. I got the Texans 31, Bears 20. I wouldn't be surprised if this game was closer. I do expect the Bears to figure out themselves on offense, but I still have the Texans winning this game. And finally, we are over to Monday Night Football. We have the Atlanta Falcons at the Philadelphia Eagles. Battle of the Birds. So for the Falcons, Cousin looks rusty as hell. And I hate to say it, but this might be the new Kirk Cousins. And I really hate saying that. But that injury is very difficult to come back from, so we'll see. And I also don't think their offensive play calling is doing him any favors, so we'll see. It was week 1, so I'm trying not to overreact. And I still don't see what people are blabbing about with Bijan Robinson. He was, in my opinion, pretty much a non-factor last week. I don't see it. It's just, that's all I can really say. I just don't see it. He doesn't have the motor for me. He's not efficient enough, and they don't feed him enough. So I just don't see how this will ever be viable, or how viable he can be for this team. I think I already mentioned their offensive play calling, but it just definitely needs to improve. You need to go play action a lot more for Kirk Cousins to be successful in this league. So figure it out. As for the Eagles, Jalen Hurts, he needs to take care of the football, man. What was it? I know he threw a pick. I think he had a fumble as well. But take care of the football, Jalen. Like, genuinely, I think he can carry this team quite far, especially with Saquon. And I think Saquon has still got it, man. Saquon has got it, and I think A.J. Brown is still a top 5 wide receiver in this league. I think this team can be very good, but they need to figure it out and fix a lot of their sloppy-ass mistakes. I do have the Eagles winning this game. I got the Eagles 31, Falcons 24. This game could go either way, in my opinion, just because I think the Eagles, they're a little iffy. Well, I'm chalked up on cold medicine, so I appreciate you guys tuning in. So sorry this video was late, but I will catch you guys in week 3. Week 3, right? Yeah, week 3 with my predictions next week, all right?